Hello everyone, my name is Banika and Ailinah, and I would like to present about ethnolinguistics or anthropological linguistics and Whorfian hypothesis. So the first is, what is ethnolinguistics or anthropological linguistics? According to KBBI 1988, anthropological linguistics or ethnolinguistics is created from two words, namely anthropology, which means a study about human, especially the origin of the human, physically form, tradition and belief, and linguistics, which means a study about language. According to Duranty 1997, ethnolinguistics is also called anthropological linguistics, where language and culture aspect is its main sub. He also says that linguistic anthropology is the study of language as a cultural resource and speaking as a cultural practice. According to Himes, 1963, as cited in Duranty 1997, anthropological linguistics is the study of speech and language within the context of anthropology. And then, according to Richards et al., 1990, as cited in Duranty 1997, anthropological linguistics is a sub of linguistics which analyzes the relationship between language and culture in a community. So, anthropological linguistics or ethnolinguistics is a study that talks about the relationship between language and culture. So the next is about theoretical concerns in contemporary linguistic anthropology. So there are three theoretical concerns in contemporary linguistic anthropology, which are performance, indexicality, and participation. So the first is about performance. According to Duranty 1997, performance is the actual use of a language and is not only seen as based upon competence, but also following principles such as attention, perception, and memory. For example, I order you to leave the room. So the utterance, I order you to leave the room, the verb order is not describing what the speaker believes to be true about a reality. It is instead an attempt to affect the reality by making it conform to the speaker's wants and expectation. The next is about indexicality. So according to Duranty 1997, indexicality is the use of indexes or signs that have some kind of existential relation with what they refer to. For example, the use of linguistic expression. The first is demonstrative pronoun, such as this, that, those, and this. And then the next is personal pronoun, such as ing. The third is temporal expression, such as now, then, and yesterday. And the last is spatial expression, such as up, down, below, and above. So the next is about participation. According to Duranty 1997, participation is the concept used to define that speaking is part of larger activities. The stresses are located in social, collective, and distributed quality of any act of speaking. To speak a language means to be able to use sounds that allows us to participate in interaction with others. For example, the use of communicative event, speech event, and speech activity. So the next is about notion and theories of culture. According to Duranty 1997, culture is what others have, what makes them and keep them different, separate from us. Culture is used to explain why minorities and marginalized groups do not easily assimilate or merge into the mainstream of society. So, culture is something unique that differs one to another. So, there are 6 theories of culture, which are culture as distinct from nature, culture as knowledge, culture as communication, culture as a system of mediation, culture as a system of practices, and the last is culture as a system of participation. So the first is culture as a distinct of nature. So according to Duranty 1997, culture as distinct of nature shows that a person can grow up regardless of his genetic heritage because he will follow the cultural patterns of the people who raised him. For example, a child separated from his birth parents will not be a member of the nature of his birth parents, but he will be a member of the culture of his adoptive parents because he is raised up in the society of his adoptive parents. The next is culture as knowledge. According to Durant in 1997, culture is said as knowledge of the world because culture is learned. Culture as knowledge is divided into propositional knowledge and procedural knowledge. The first is propositional knowledge. Know that. So, propositional knowledge refers to belief that can be represented by proposition. For example, smoking is bad for your health. And the next is procedural knowledge or know-how. Procedural knowledge refers to knowledge of how people carry on their daily tasks and engage in problem solving. For example, to drive a car, we do not only need to know what parts of the car, but we also need to know when and how to use those parts. The next is culture as communication. According to Durant in 1997, culture as communication means that culture is a system of signs which represent the world. For example, people's cultural products such as myths, rituals, and classification of the natural and social world. The next is culture as a system of mediation. According to Durant in 1997, culture as a system of mediation shows that tools are the mediational object that mediate human and environment. This term of tools is also known as instrument or label, which in this case, instrument is whatever humans use to control the environment and produce resources. For example, people will use fork when they will eat. So the two are fork. And then people will use umbrella when the weather is rain. So the tools are umbrellas. The next is culture as a system of practices. According to Durant in 1997, culture as a system of practices emphasizes the fact that human can culturally exist and function as a participant in a series of habitual activities, while a language is a set of practices that imply not only a particular system of words and grammatical rules, but also a particular way of communicating. For example, daily speech act, and organized and given meaning by institution. And the last is about culture as a system of participation. According to Durant in 1997, culture as a system of participation is a notion of culture for looking at how language is used in the real world, because to speak a language means to be able to participate in interactions with a world that is always larger than us as individual speaker, and even larger than what we can see and touch in any given situation. For example, we can connect with other people by using words. We can know the situation by using words. And we can know belief by using words. And then for the next is, what is Whorfian hypothesis? According to Rangris and Harati 2017, Whorfian hypothesis is an assumption related to the culture through language that influences people thinking. And then, according to Sapir, 1921, Worf, 1952 and 1956, Berlin and Kay, 1969, Lucy, 1992A and 1992B, Levinson, 2000, Gilbert et al., 2008, as cited in Mahadi and Jabari, 2012. Whorfian hypothesis consists of two parts, which are unified, namely linguistic relativity and linguistic determinism. So the first is linguistic relativity. According to Mahadi and Jabari 2012, linguistic relativity maintains that the way people view the world is affected by the structure of their native language. So here is the example. I have a video for the example. Please watch carefully.
As English speakers, if we put ourselves in the shoes of the girl in this scenario, and someone asks us, "Where is the cat?" what will we say? Almost certainly something like, "The cat is behind the clay pot." This is because for purposes of describing locations, English invites us to perceive inanimate objects as if they're people, or at least animate beings of some kind. And because of this, when we're looking at the clay pot, we implicitly think of it as having a front or side with a face, and a back or hind side, and as having its side with a face toward us. As a result, we conceive of the cat as being on the back side of or behind the clay pot. And we do this even though we know, of course, that clay pots are not beings and have neither faces nor hind sides. Now, if we remain in the shoes of the girl, but change where she is in the scenario, and someone asks us, "Where is the cat?" what we'll say now is that the cat is in front of the clay pot. But why does our conception of things as reflected in what we say change, even though the location of the cat with respect to the clay pot has not changed at all? Because we conceive of objects that we want to locate things in terms of as being like people facing us, what counts as the front of the clay pot has changed completely. It's no longer experienced at the same side that we saw before. It's now the opposite side. The cat is now between us and the side of the clay pot. So we think of it as being in front of it.
Okay, from that video, we know that the language are relative, based on the way people view the world. In that video, we know that the cat position of that girl are relative. It depends on the people think. And the next is linguistic determinism. According to Mahadi and Jabbar 2012, linguistic determinism is the idea that language limits and determines people's view of the world. So here is the example. Please watch carefully the video.
The idea that language determines thought is called strong linguistic determinism, or the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Let's look at some examples. In the Russian language, the name for the color blue is, unlike English, split into two discrete words, goluboy for light blue, and sini for plain or dark blue. According to linguistic determinism, this means that Russian speakers see light and dark blue as two completely different colors, while an English speaker would not be able to tell the difference.
So, from that video, we know that the language is limited and determined. It's like that color in Russian speaker, the color is determined by two, light blue and dark blue, while in English speaker there is no difference between blue. That's all about my presentation. Thank you.